All right, we are here. FWS, Future World Sport Broadcast Network, the global standard. I am Christian Lvchld, and I am here with a gentleman that I find to be very intriguing, very interesting. Y'all all know Ganja Grease, Nikki G. He put me on with this gentleman. I had a chance to go out to one of his events that they threw at one of the gyms that he's at, and it was intense. It was intense. But with that said, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. Go ahead. Let the people know who you are.
How's everybody doing? My name is Nelson Felix Lebron. My fight name is The Tyrant. I go by Nelson the Tyrant Lebron. Born and raised in New York City, in the South Bronx. 9 combat tours, 11 black belt in 11 different styles of martial arts, not to include boxing, Muay Thai, and reality martial arts. Did 21 years active duty military service. I did 7.5 years boots on ground between Afghanistan and Iraq. Did counter drug ops in Latin America, and I've been working the security field and teaching martial arts now for over 20 years.
Okay. Nelson Lebron, you said, right?
Yes, sir. Like the basketball
like
player.
LeBron James.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of people in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba. They have that as their surname. In certain African dialects, it means the king or of the king. So when Africans were sold into slavery, they would sell the kings with their royalty and stuff like that because they figured it'd be worse than death. So they would still refer to their guy as Your Majesty, the king.
Right.
So, of course, people took it on as their last name.
Right. That's hard. That's
Which is
tough,
why
man.
LeBron James calls himself King James.
King
sometimes.
James. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Man, that's dope. So you're from the South Bronx. Let's start there. Kind of give the people a little bit of your background. I know you kind of gave them a real quick overview, but kind of let's start in the Bronx, and just kind of like, what was your growing up like? You know, your parents, school life, like what was that like coming up?
Okay, so I grew up dirt poor in the Bronx. Both my parents were in my life. Good father, good mom. You know, my dad worked several jobs, worked real hard. Of course, when you're poverty-driven, poverty-stricken, you're gonna knuckle up a lot, especially in the 70s and 80s. I grew up in a tough time. Fortunately, though, every boys' club had martial arts or boxing and stuff like that. So I dipped and dabbled in the arts until 5th grade. In the 5th grade, when I was 10 years old, I got kidnapped. True story.
Wow.
I got kidnapped from the front of a storefront called Eddie's on Hoe Avenue in the Bronx. And after like 19 hours of being missing, I escaped.
Oh, man.
Now, when I escaped, there was kids in dog kennels. There was kids tied to radiators. And
What?
I escaped, but I didn't help any other kids because I was scared.
So hold on. You at 10 years old, you got kidnapped. Where were you? Like, how did that happen?
So my school was on this street in Southern Boulevard, off the boulevard that was called Hoe Avenue.
Right.
It was a Catholic school, and it was just in a bad neighborhood.
Okay.
So I was standing in front of a storefront, just eating a snack, eating some potato chips, and I got grabbed and put in a van.
Man, you didn't see it was just like
No, I didn't see it. And plus, you know, self-awareness when you're 10 years old. I think I was playing with some Garbage Pail Kids. I don't know if you remember
Right,
those.
right.
They were like cards
Yeah,
with a
little-
sticker,
yeah.
And I just got nabbed up, and
wow.
a few weeks before, I'd seen a episode of Mission Impossible,
Okay.
where the lady cut the ropes using the friction on a piece of glass. Well, I used the friction of the radiator. I got tied up to an old radiator. And,
Oh, wow.
And this is the crazy part about it. I escaped. I had some hood cats find me, and they turned me over to the police. And NYPD failed me big time. They said I had an overactive imagination and that I just ran away because I was probably getting into trouble.
What?
And I was like, man, I'm an honor roll student. Why would I run away? But from that point on, martial arts no longer was a hobby to me. It became
Right.
an obsession. I never wanted to be in that scenario again. So I became obsessed, and my goal was to become one of the most dangerous people on the planet so that it never happened to me again.
So when you got out of that situation, and I guess like you got found, you got back with your family, and you decided to take on martial arts, was it something that inspired you to say, outside of the kidnapping, but what made you choose martial arts? Well, it could have been boxing, wrestling.
I was doing martial arts to begin with. I was running track, playing football,
Okay.
Boxing, and doing martial arts. My dad was a Marine during Vietnam, so he
Okay.
was all for,
Yeah.
learning to defend yourself. And plus, we grew up in a rough neighborhood. You
Right.
know, I was growing up in Boyan Avenue, which is on the 6 train line. You know, it was nothing for us to see somebody get shot in the street. As a matter of fact, I remember we were poking a dead guy on the back of our building for like 9 months before they even came and got him. You know? As
wow.
little kids, this is being 6, 7, 8 years old.
And seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it was a norm. So I was a little desensitized by violence, and then after that situation happened, it became not just a passion but an obsession. I wanted to be dangerous. I wanted to be able to protect myself, my family, and the whole 9 yards. You know.
Right. How, and you said this. So this started at like 10, 11.
Yep, 10.
Did you go like just like down the street, or like how'd that work? How did you find this gym?
At the time, well, I started training when I was 5. I was already doing it when I was 5.
Okay, yeah, you did say
But
your boxing.
Yeah, but at age 5, it was just fun.
Okay.
After that happened, 5 years later, it became an obsession.
Right. And then where's it go from there? So now you're a little older. You're definitely locked in and tuned into it. Do you just start? Yeah, go ahead.
So I continued training. I competed every now and then, but nothing major, you know. And then in high school, my freshman year, I went to all boys Catholic high school, and they did this thing called Freshman Day, where the seniors go around jumping the kids, jumping the new kids,
Right.
hazing them or whatever. And I had some dudes come in the shower and try to whoop us with towels, and some of the kids took it. They thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I wasn't about that life, so the minute they whooped the towel, I lit the first dude up, and
Oh man, what'd you do? Do you remember the move? Like, do you remember what?
I boxed his ears in. You know, most people aren't aware of balance or, leg kicks or getting hit to the body, you know.
Right.
I just knew how to fight, and after a while, I enjoyed it, you know.
Right. Adrenaline rush, probably, right?
Yeah, not even an adrenaline rush. It became like, kind of like, you ever seen the movie Troy with Brad Pitt? Yeah, so it was one of those.
Like,
Let me enjoy beating you.
Yeah.
It was martial arts was no longer about getting a black belt and stuff like that. I loved the journey. When you love the journey, everything is like easy. Does that
right.
make sense?
Yes.
I had like that Vegeta mindset from Dragon Ball Z. I wanted to
Right.
just be the greatest, most powerful creature you ever faced up against.
What were some of the things you did to train to be able to accomplish that?
Oh gosh, at age 14, 15, I was knocking out about 1,000 push-ups a day.
Okay.
I'd run 2 to 3 miles every day, you know, try to get at least 15 rounds shadow boxing, you know. Do at least 500 kicks a day, and it's continued that way my whole life.
That's intense, man. That is definitely intense. So did this, like, I know you mentioned what happened in the shower room and everything like that. Did you ever have to like protect your family using some of the skill sets that you had?
Actually, I was fortunate, you know. My reputation got around the projects really quick. You
Right.
know, you get into your average project scuffle, and I was one of the few people that would kick people in the head in the whole 9
Right.
yards. So people were like, "Yo, don't mess with Street Fighter. That kid's about that life. He's problems, you know."
Yeah,
So
Street
everybody
Fighter.
was pretty chill, and I've always had a laid back mentality. You know, I was the kid. I didn't drink. I didn't care to try weed. I didn't do any of that. And my friends, unlike some people try to say, people put the peer pressure on you.
Right.
People would straight up be like, "Nah, Nell's training. Don't mess with him.
Right.
Don't give him that." And if I had somebody that was doing that, they'd be, "Yo, we're gonna go up the block for a little bit. We'll be back. Tony, stay with him." You know.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, I never had any issues growing up after that.
Got you. So it just took a couple of times that people knew who you
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
Especially in the hood, like you
no,
said,
yeah.
word gets around quick and it kind of just sticks.
Yeah, and I was one of those that I would fight the people that nobody wanted to fight. You know.
The
Like-
bullies, knocking out.
yeah,
you,
like-
you was the bully to the bullies.
Or the kid that would come out of spot for the, did juvie time or whatever, and they were a little different. I'd be like, "Come on, bro, I'm your Huckleberry, I'm
Right.
about that life." And then they end up being my friends and be like, "Yo, no, you messed me up kind of bad." I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'd always stay humble about it, because I knew, hey, I could have been nasty with them hands, but there was people that had stuff I didn't have, like,
Right.
and guns are very accessible in New
Right.
York,
Right. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah. So then, boom, you graduate high school. At this point, I mean, you got to make money, you got to figure out life and things like that. Where was this? Where were you at in life at this point?
Oh, well, my sophomore year in the military, I did this thing called a delayed entry program for the military. My sophomore year of high school.
You went to the military?
No, I started planning on going to the military. So
Oh,
I
okay.
started training, at the recruitment center. It was called the delayed entry program for 2 years.
Okay.
I already knew I was going in the military. It'd be something I wanted to do. I wanted to take things to the next level. And I graduated high school June 28th, 1993. I started boot camp July 1st, 1993. Gave myself no time. My mom was upset because I graduated with like a 98.3 average. I was ridiculously smart.
Right.
But I didn't want to be the poor kid in college, you know?
Right.
College is expensive. I got partial scholarships to certain places.
I was gonna say, did you get any kind of like?
Yeah, I got
offers?
partial scholarships, you know. I was president of the National Honor Society,
Right.
but I was like, Mom, you don't understand, $15,000 a year at a $28,000 tuition.
Still gonna.
I was like, I'm gonna be still that kid with two different color shoes. So I was like, nah, I'm out of the city. And plus,
you want to get some money. You want to start a career.
not only that, I spent so much time, you know, while everybody was out partying, doing whatever, I spent so much time studying to maintain them grades. I was burned out by school.
Right.
And then I didn't regret it when I started meeting people that had college degrees.
Right.
And they could recite something off a piece of paper,
Right.
but had no understanding of what they were reading or what they were reciting.
Right.
So I started getting the same education they were getting off reading their books.
Right.
You know? So
Right. Yeah. You could do it yourself. So you went into the military. You said what branch?
I joined the Navy, the Marine Corps. Funny story. The Marine
Okay.
Corps told me I was too short and too light. I was 85 pounds when I graduated high school.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got a height and weight waiver to join the military. And I remember getting joked by the Marine Corps guy. He was like, nah, son, you too small. You need to go next down. And then, true story, the Army guy, the recruiting station was on Fordham Road in the Bronx, and all the offices were right next to each other. And the Army guy comes out eating some KFCs, and nah, cuz, you need to go over there to that Navy guy because you too small for us. And the Navy guy had a lisp, was weird. He's like, Flo, you want to join the Navy? I was like, man, I just want to get out the city, you know?
Yeah.
So I took the ASVAB, scored perfect on it, and then they were like, hey, we could get you out of here on this day. And I was like, that's what's up, you know? And I
Wow.
rolled out.
Where was your first?
I went to boot camp in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
When photography A school, I was a combat camera guy. When I first started out, I went to photography A school in Pensacola, Florida.
That's
Then after that, I got stationed at the Pentagon and the Office of Naval Intelligence,
Okay.
doing intel photography and stuff like that. And then
That's really interesting. Just to jump into something. So can you kind of explain what that job entails? Because
yeah, so intel photography had to do with everything top secret. So they might give you a picture of a site and you had to label it for the intelligence specialist, saying this is the location, this is where this is being held, and label it. This is
Right.
back in the old school photography days where you're still doing the
Right.
stuff in the dark room.
right.
And-
What do they call that?
Yeah,
Develop.
developing and processing
yeah.
your film using the old stop bath fixer and the whole
Wow.
nine
In the
yards.
dark room with
in the
the
dark
water.
room and the whole 9 yards.
Oh
yeah.
wow!
So,
You was doing that.
yeah, so I was doing that.
So you still know how to like?
Yeah, I can still do all of that. And then while I was in my time there, I was stationed there from 93 to like 96.
Okay.
Digital photography was born.
Right.
So they started messing around with, you know, digital photography and being able to enhance photography through the digital stuff. And
Right.
that computer component changed stuff, you know,
Yeah.
because you no longer needed 30 rolls of film.
Right.
You had a memory disk, which back then you were actually using the old floppy disk and
yeah.
stuff like that. And it could hold 50 photos back then, 20, 50 photos. But it saved you on film. Now, you
Oh,
can take
man.
thousands of photos. As a matter of fact, your phone's probably got a better camera than any of the stuff I was messing around with back then.
Right.
So I saw the death of Kodak, because Kodak was stuck on that old
Classic.
paper,
Yeah.
and they didn't maintain, you
And
know,
stay relevant.
yeah, and Fuji and everybody else from over
Fuji
here.
film. Yeah, my
Yeah.
father. See, my father was in the Navy. I was born in Japan. I'm a Navy kid.
Nice.
I've been everywhere. You know, no longer than 3 years. So he would. But the thing is, when he was in the Navy, he took up photography, and we were. Oh man, he had all kind of cameras. So and Fuji was one of the first things I remember, like seeing
Yeah,
him.
Fuji, Canon, you know, Nikon. Nikon was another company that blew up with the digital. They were the first ones to have a digital back.
Yeah.
And you'd attach it to your camera and you could take digital pictures.
Where did your travels in the Navy take you? Did you go all around
Oh,
the world?
gosh. I've been all over Europe. So I've been to France, Italy, Germany, let me see, Greece, Israel, Japan.
Yokosuka?
Yeah, I went to Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Korea, gosh, you name it, Thailand, Australia. I've been.
What was your favorite place or most memorable?
Gosh, Australia, man.
Australia, I'm about to say, that sounds dope.
Australia, I was the short kid with a tall blonde. I felt like I had a balloon in the mall. You know, the kid walking around, look at my balloon. You ain't got one.
That's funny. That's real funny, man. How long were you in Australia?
I was in Australia just 6 months, you know.
Okay.
We do this operation called Balakatan Cobra Gold, and you hit normally Australia and Thailand.
So how long did you retire? How long did you?
Yeah, I retired. I did 21 years. I retired in 2014.
Okay.
And in between there, I went to Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo,
I was gonna ask, did you
Syria.
go to
Yeah.
watch any of the wars? Okay.
I did 7.5 years boots on ground. I went to Iraq 5 times, Afghanistan 4 times.
What was that experience like?
That was a dark time in my life. In March 25th, 1999, I lost my fiance and twins to a drunk driver while I was deployed. And
Man.
from that point on, my soul was dark. It was like they snatched up the best thing in my life.
Right.
You know, I was this tough kid from the Bronx, and here I had a Georgia peach, beautiful girl. She looked like old Linda Carter Wonder Woman, you know, and she was very grounded, Christian girl, type that prayed by the bed every night, you know.
Yeah.
And losing her took a piece out of my life to where I kind of wanted to die myself. So I volunteered for combat tour after combat tour, and in doing so, I just found God, found my place again in the world, and kept it moving.
Sometimes it's like that. Like I have on my clothing, because I do clothes, and I have like the tagline of Future World Sport is, the ugliest times made me create beautiful things. And I think that sometimes in life, and you know, I could never imagine, you know, a loss like that, but thinking about some of the losses I've had, just thinking about other things, and just terrible times, low times, it makes you, the strong ones, it makes you say, hey, you know what? I got to make something happen. I'm still here. I got to figure this out. I got to push through this. So that's really dope to see your perseverance through that, because that's an incredible loss. You know what I'm saying?
It took a chunk out of me, but then after time, I started seeing it as, she was very angelic. Like I said, I've never met anyone like her, and I just felt like I had an angel on borrowed time.
Right.
And God put me through that to make me the person I needed to be for the combat environment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I wasn't fearful. I was unfazed by it.
Right.
I was ready for whatever. And I think the people I served with, the people I bodyguarded in combat and the whole 9 yards, felt that, because here they would be freaking out, and I was like, brother, I got you, don't sweat it. You know,
Right.
I was like the Batman to the Justice League. You know.
Right. You brought that protection, that not even just the protection, but probably just like, all right, it's gonna be all right. I got this, and we gonna be good.
Yeah, and the mindset. My mindset was different. I was actually seeing everything 10 to 12 steps ahead instead of in the moment. Oh, where everybody else would be like, we're being shot at, or there's mortars coming in. I'd be like, slow down. Where is it coming from? What direction? How many people we got on our team? Where are our vehicles postured at? You know, so it just brought a different element to it.
Do you think that that mindset that you're saying, of course, like through the pain and the things that you suffered, but do you think that has to do also with you've been training for so long that there's a certain discipline in the way you have to think of counter moves and knowing, you know, being 2 moves and 3 moves ahead of somebody? Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Yeah, most definitely. Okay. I think fighting in actually competitively, you're constantly used to putting your body through pain and discomfort. So you become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
And once you get to that level, you're limitless. Your mind becomes limitless.
Right.
It no longer becomes like, oh my gosh, I'm getting punched. It becomes like, okay, this guy's punching at me. This is a grizzly bear. How do I punch it? How do I beat this grizzly bear? You know?
Right. Instead of just being like, oh, it's a grizzly bear. I'm done.
I'm done. You know.
But you're saying, how do I take this on? I love that. That's the kind of mindset I have as well. So this is a random question. What's your favorite movie?
Oh gosh, I have a bunch of. Let me see. I love the second Rocky and Rocky IV out of those. That last Rambo did things to me. I love that. Last of the Mohicans is another one I love.
Ooh, wow.
You know, Last of the Mohicans is another one that does things for me. I love the whole Godfather series, especially Godfather 2, you know?
The second one, yeah.
The second one, you know?
Yeah.
They used to have this old movie named Belly.
Belly. That's my favorite movie of all time.
I love Belly.
DMX was, oh my God, I love Belly.
Yeah, so
Oh man, I can't believe you said, yo, you the man right there. Hey, hit an applause for that real quick, because anybody that knows me knows Belly is my favorite movie. I love that movie. Frank Williams.
yeah, so I love a lot of movies like that to that level, you know.
Okay, cool. Now I just was curious because I had heard you mention a couple things. I'm like, yo, I wonder what kind of movies this guy like. But yeah, that's dope. So boom, right? You're in the Navy right now, and we're not right now, but in the timeline of the story. Can you tell me about your first? Even though I know you said you had a lot of what do you call it, boots on ground.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of talk to us and explain that? What that was like, and then your transition. Are you still in your transition from retiring into what you're doing now?
So once I retired, I started doing contracting work, which is very similar. I do bodyguard work. I teach active shooter survival training. I do tactics. I do role playing for the special operations community. You know, where I play either a bad guy or an assaulting force, and we shoot either sim rounds or blanks at each other just to mimic being in country. The transition now wasn't much different than being in. I was always myself in the military, so it was like it was an add-on, you know. While I was in the military, I started fighting competitively, and it even took a higher level once I lost my fiance, because I needed that outlet, you know, to release my emotions in a constructive way. And next thing I know, I'm fighting in underground fight clubs in Okinawa, Japan, and knocking Japanese guys out. They're the ones that actually gave me the name Tyrant. They called it Boken, and it meant Tyrant, because I was my heroes when I was a kid in the boxing room were like Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Mike Tyson, Roberto Duran, guys that weren't in there to shake your hands and be the pretty guy and be soft-spoken. They wanted to get in there and get that work done. So I wouldn't shake hands in between rounds, you know, like all that fancy stuff. I was a sportsman, but I only touched gloves in the beginning and the end of the round, and if they stuck their hand out, I said no, and I just went to work. And I fought a lot of people that were better than me and beat them just because of tenacity and just staying in their face. I was one of them dudes. I was going to try to throw 350 punches per round, 50 kicks, and overwhelm you with offense. I don't care if you hit me, I was still going to keep hitting you. And that's a difficult person to fight.
Yeah, that doesn't care about the pain. Just goes through it. You can hit me out, bring it on. That is. So, my fault I even kind of breezed through that. But, so while you were in the Navy and you were touring, you were actually in underground fight clubs in other countries that you were like.
Yes, and I was also I was also competing in the U.S. circuit. So I fought under the IKF. I won their title. I won WKA title. I've won almost every title on the sun. I've won over 75 titles during my time competing, and 5 world titles in that time frame.
What kind of environment is it? What's the difference between fighting in in America, like you said, in the States, but then versus an underground bout in Asia, or how is? So
the underground bouts in Asia and stuff like that, it's just the rules parameters. So let's say they might get away with kicking you in the nuts a couple of times. Elbows to the face, accidental, or if they're allowed, are gonna be way more vicious. So you just gotta be aware. It's But I went in there with a mindset of a fight is a fight, because I grew up street fighting in the Bronx. There was nothing I ain't seen. I've had people bite me, hit me with bottles. So, at that point,
Yeah. Like you said, your mindset is a little bit different.
Yeah, it was a little bit different,
What was one of your toughest fights that you remember? And specifically in the underground scene that you're speaking about?
In the underground scene, they did me dirty one time. They put a guy in there 170, and I was fighting at 125.
Wow.
And he was putting it on me.
What was his style? So
it was a tie fight.
Okay.
And he was kneeing me in the face and everything like that. And I remember going back to the corner and asking one of the guys, I was like, is he uppercutting me or is he kneeing me? And they're like, bro, he's kneeing you. And I'm 5'1", so you figure somebody 6 foot, they got a whole lot of reach about you.
Oh, what? He was 6 feet?
Yeah. So he was putting it on me a little bit. But I remember getting dropped, and I had a Filipino chief in my corner. And his English was not the greatest. And he was like, Nelson, get up. You're from the Bronx, man. Show him where you're from. And the whole time I'm sitting there looking at this dude like, man, I could just lay here and the fight will be over. But then something clicked. I saw how much that man believed in me, and I was like, man, this dude is right, man. I'm from the Bronx. Get up. You're Puerto Rican. Get in there.
I caught you out of everything.
Yeah, man. And I just got up there and I just started swinging for the fences, and I caught the dude. And I saw the legs go. And he elbowed me on top of the head, so that's that scar there. And there was blood going in my eyes. So I wiped the blood out my eyes, and I see he had the wobbly feet like in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So I went for broke. I made little even baby sounds. Just hitting him, and he went to sleep. And the crowd was like, oh, snap.
Oh, my
so
God.
then after that, I was like, man, the hell with that. Ain't nobody ever stopping
Right.
me, you know?
Right.
And that's one thing I could say. My record is 190-36, and I've never been knocked out. I got stopped one time with a knee to the solar plexus fighting for a U.S. title, and it was because I was
Knee
dumb.
to the solar plex. That's up here.
Right in
Yes.
between your, right below your xiphoid process, below your chest. It knocked the wind out of me. And the thing was, I was winning that fight, you know? And the kid is a monster. The dude that fought me, shout out to him, Jose Villarasco. Only guy that could claim he stopped me. He owns Fox MMA. But we were fighting a war. That was our third fight, so that was the rubber match.
Wow.
You know, we fought one draw,
Yeah.
one win apiece, you know? But it was for a Muay Thai U.S. title, and I got caught. I was so mad, I got up, shook his hand, kissed him on the cheek, raised his hand. I walked out the ring, got in my car, drove back home, left my girlfriend there and everything. I want no parts of it. I had a process. It was all because I wanted a showboat.
Damn.
And, you know, had I not showboat and stuck to the game plan, that man would have never called me the solar plexus. But I thought I was something I wasn't, you know, and
Right.
it backfired. God got us way of making us feel humbled, you know,
Yeah.
and showing yo, stop playing, get in there and do your job, and
focused.
I didn't, you know.
Yeah, I got you. One thing I wanted to, because I see this a lot in, and I might be, you know, categorizing it wrong, but like in MMA fighting and like the mixed fighting and stuff like that, I see a lot of like embrace after it's over, way more than you see like in boxing and stuff like that. Is that taught in how you train and how you come up? Is that just like the camaraderie of fighters?
In most martial arts, they teach a level of respect. Respect is everything in martial arts, and then they teach that item of honor. You know, it used to be to where back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, even street thugs had honor. You see a drug dealer in the street, and he'll tell a kid, yo, don't do this. You better than this. Don't come up like I came up. I've been locked up a couple of times. Somewhere in the late 90s, we started losing that.
Yeah.
But it used to be back in the day to where you and I could knuckle up, and it didn't matter what the beef was. At the end of it, once one person gave up, he shook his hand, and like it squashed, you know? That got lost somewhere along the lines, you know?
Yeah. But that's as far as like when you're training and you're learning, you know, your discipline. That's
That
very
honor is
much-
still,
yeah.
that honor and that respect level is still embraced, and it goes back to the coach, you know, or the parent, you know.
Right.
You fought, but at the end of the day, you're representing your mom and your dad.
Right, you're representing somebody.
So you're representing your coach, and you didn't want to dishonor them by being a disrespectful or a piece of trash in this.
Right,
So you
right.
shook that man's hand for honoring you and fighting you.
Right.
Because whether he won or lost,
Right.
the type of battle you had, that's what builds your name.
Right.
That's what you depend on at the end of the
How
day.
you fought the fight. That's true. So where are you at today with everything? Like what's going on today, current day?
So today I still spar, I still teach. I teach at a UFC gym in Norfolk, the Janif Shopping Center. I have a mixed crowd there. I got a lot of blue-collar military people, and I've also got poor kids that I got to raise money for and get them uniforms and support them. One thing I try to teach them is old school ways of honor, you know, put the guns down, train. You're a street warrior, yeah, but what's that street warrior if it ends in death at age 12 to 16? So
Right.
we got our black men, our Latino men, and women all killing themselves at an alarming rate, way higher than anything else, you know?
Facts.
And I just think we need to put the emphasis back on creating strong men and women instead of, you know, these emotional men and women, which it seems to be the quotation, exclamation point of this modern day era. I just, so I normally teach at a gym, and I take them all. I like them all. Wheelchairs, they don't matter. I've had kids in wheelchair. You can't
wow.
see, I want you in there. You're missing an arm, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what you can do in that ring, but what can you do against yourself? I'm trying to create better men and women, you know, that could survive through adversity, you know?
Yeah. That's true, man. And that's good. Like, that's really, really good. Like being able to help the community and push them to different alternatives. I like the element of what you said, like, hey, if you're in a wheelchair, if you're blind, if you got one arm, it doesn't matter. I can teach you something. I can show you this. We can figure this out. So I love that. I really love that. Let's give them an applause for that real quick, because that's really good stuff. And more initiatives need to be taken like that. not just by, you know what I'm saying, one type of person, one type of brand, but it needs to be all of us need to think like that. Protect the kids, invest in the future, and those kind of things. And even like sharing your resources. The fact that you're able to take your experience, you know, have facilities, being able to take this knowledge and then share that. That's going to have that kid pass it forward to whoever he goes and does that for. You know what I mean? When he goes and he gets to that age and he gets to that level of influence. So that's a good thing. I know when I walked in there, the excitement, one of my friends was in there. I guess I want to say either his nephew or son, one of them was fighting in the competition. And he was there, you know, supporting him. And I haven't seen this guy that, like, he's not an emotional guy. He doesn't. If he's happy, you don't know. If he's sad, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? And the expression on his face when I walked in and we were talking about what was going on, I was like, "Oh, good to see you." And he wasn't even that happy to see me. So it was, but just talking about what was happening in there and the person he was there to support, just all of that. And then it's like, yo, the fact that you're able to create a facility that brings that, right? Because it's not just about, somebody might look at it and say, oh, it's violence, but it's not. It's more about the camaraderie. It's more about teaching respect for yourself, respect for others, and the honor. And then, like I said, talking to my boy and seeing just how it impacted him, watching someone else do it and seeing how that was affecting them. It's incredible. And I know you're doing great things.
I appreciate that.
For sure. So let me do this. Can you speak a little bit more, and then we'll bring it to a close, but could you speak a little bit more about your initiatives for the youth in Norfolk specifically?
So what I'm trying to do in Norfolk specifically, I've always worked for other people who own the gym.
Okay.
And what I've seen with that is, you know, when you don't own the grounds, when you don't own the building, if that person decides they no longer want to be invested in their business, they could cut ways. Right. Which leaves a bunch of little kids disappointed, or a bunch of adults who were training with you and were liking what you were doing without a home, essentially. Because to a lot of people, that's their outlet from the world they live in. Right. They can have that horrible boss, or they come from that single parent. I've had kids where I've taken them. I took last year a couple of kids on Thanksgiving to visit their dad in jail. You know, so there's all those components in the Norfolk area. You know, you got your foster parents taking you to martial arts, you know, to the gym. So I've got a dynamic of everything there, and it just, it's a horrible condition when the investor or the owner of the building says, hey, I'm no longer doing this, I'm pulling out because it's not profitable enough for me, and it sucks. So my goal now is to, within the next 3 to 5 years, raise $1 million, buy a 1/4 acre of land, build a 3-story facility with classrooms and everything in it, and the second floor be all martial arts driven, and have shows, have everything, showcase these kids, build up their minds. And what I mean by building up their minds, there's a lot of people that have taken the role of a teacher, and they're indoctrinating our children. I don't want that. I want free thinkers that I can say, this is what this says, this is what that says. Make your conclusion. What do you think is true? I want people that go beyond the history that's taught in the schools, but people who actually research true history of what actually is going, whether bad or good, because every history's got bad in it. And it's from that bad that we learn to be good. So I want the kids learning the truth. I want to create free thinkers, people who are not emotional, but they're logical about their way of thinking, and also strong, because there's no greater testament to how strong you are than being in a fight or having to struggle for something, you know? And when you're in there training and struggling for years, you see pain as weakness leaving the body, sweating nothing but fat crying, and blood ain't nothing but red sweat, you know? So you train.
Can you say those 3 things again one more time?
So
pain, you said you started off with pain.
Pain is weakness leaving the body, you know? Sweat ain't nothing but fat crying, and blood ain't nothing but red sweat. So you train your mentality to always be on the go, you know? And tough times don't last, but tough people do. There's always going to be more rainy days than there are sunny days. So I'm trying to create that mindset to where even if it's a rainy day outside, in your mind you know that if you climb high enough above them clouds, it's always a sunny day. Every day's a sunny day. And I want people to start seeing our skin color instead of something that's holding them back. That's just another challenge, you know? All right, you see, this is what you see, but I'm going to show you who I really am, you know? And regardless of where you come from, you know? And that's what I try to instill in the kids. You know, at the end of the day, we all breathe the same air. We all bleed red. You know, and we all got a heart running through our bodies that maintains us functioning. So I just want to create, you know, more of that level dynamic. And I think one thing fighters have, and you see it in the UFC, it don't matter what country they're from, when they knuckle up, at the end of it, it doesn't matter if he's from Russia and it's a black guy, from America, or a Puerto Rican against a Brazilian, they embrace and they give each other that respect, you know, because there's honorable warriors in every country. And I think it's sad that through the word civilization, those in power have chosen to civilize and take away the fighting style from every tribe, no matter where you were Native American or from Africa or from Puerto Rico. Everybody's ethnicity had a fighting style to them because they were warriors.
Right, right.
And that was taken away with them under the guise of civility. Why? Because if the peasant population is as strong as the kings and their soldiers and could overthrow them when they start throwing the BS at them, that makes the government fearful of the people instead of what the people is doing now. They're afraid of the government. So I'm trying to create free thinkers like that could become the leaders of the future and take us in that direction.
Right. Yo, listen, I think where you were going and what you're talking about, that one, we got to come back for a part 2, first off, because I think there's some topics that we need to touch on as far as like just the free thinking, the mindset, the understanding of what the youth needs today. Like that's a whole nother discussion that we need to have. So if you're cool with it,
yes,
I would
I'm
love to have
definitely
you
cool
back.
with it.
Facts, and we gotta definitely do that. But let me do this because I know that we're coming up on the time limit. Let me get you to let them know where they can reach you at, and how they can support what you have going on. If you can let the people know that.
So we got a GoFundMe going on right now. It's under Nelson Lebron, and it says Tyrant MMA Building. It's got a brief bio of what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise $1 million, you know, in the next 3 to 5 years. You could also reach me at UFC Gym Norfolk. You know, I'm there almost every day, or by email at nelsmooth@aol.com. It's real easy. I got a 90s email. I know I'm old. So that's NELSMOOTH@AOL.com. Shoot me a message. I always get back to everybody. You could also Google my name, Nelson Lebron. I pop up everywhere, and it'll show you my Instagram, my social media, and we could go from there.
And if you're here in Norfolk, you are still over here at the UFC.
Yes, I'm still at the JNF Shopping Center. We're there, God willing, till it says till December 15th right now, but God willing, the new owner won't make too many big changes and get rid of nothing, and we could build towards this building. And, you know, one thing I try to give people is, you know, I'm not perfect. I've got my flaws. I've got my sins in the past, but I'm not who I used to be in the past.
Right.
And I'm trying to build dynamics to make myself not only a good man, but a good father, a man of God, and also a good ambassador for humanity with the kids and with everybody, and show that everybody that just because you've been a felon or you've done bad things in your past, you're not stuck there. You could turn it around. You could be that positive person. And that's the one thing I try to tell the kids too. It's okay to make mistakes. Our mistakes make us great, and failure is part of the formula to success. You got to fail at something and stay consistent with it in order to succeed. If every person that was trying to be a black belt quit every time they got a kick wrong, you know?
You wouldn't be no black
Yeah,
belts.
and unfortunately, we don't start learning to quit till we're past the age of 8. Because a baby will crawl and fall at least 10,000 times on his way to learning to take his few steps and never quit trying to stand up and walk.
Right.
But unfortunately, as an adult, the minute we suffer some adversity, we want to quit, and we allow our emotions to overtake our logic and stick with something till the end.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Emotions could be the death of you, man. Man, that was that. Like I said, man, we gotta, because there's some other elements that I feel like you could probably enlighten just some people on, bring awareness to, and just talk about. But it needs to be in a bigger form, and that's why I definitely want to have you back. But I do appreciate you coming out today. I appreciate this conversation with you imparted. I really just want to give you your flowers for what you're doing currently and what I'm hip to, what you're doing for the kids, for the youth, empowering them. You know what I mean? Empowering the unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? The ones that don't have everything that they need to be able to, you know, that society says you need. You're empowering them. I was once that kind of youth, so we all need that, and it's good to know there's people still out here trying to do that. Real dudes that's trying to do it. You know what I mean? They don't have hidden agendas. They're not on something else. It's, I want to show someone what I know, and impart that in them. So that's good stuff. And I want to give you your flowers for that. I appreciate you, Nelson. I appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate your brand. And let's do this again. Let's do this again real soon. We're gonna figure this out because we gotta get some more in here.
Sounds good. It was an honor being here, and I also want to throw in a quick plug. A couple of my parents created an anti-kidnapping organization.
Okay.
And their motto is teach one to save one. So we teach them basic self-defense and survival techniques, like something as simple as if you get away as a child, you may not remember the location, but if you can count light posts. Law enforcement could say 50 light posts back that way, that's about 2 miles, in that direction. And, stuff like that, picking up a sock and filling it up with a bottle so you could clean it out and fill up water. Just ways to survive in case something of that dynamic happened. And they're called the Kid Warrior Foundation.
Okay.
And that's kid with 2 Ds. And they've been my partners in doing a lot of events for kids, from Christmas parties to trunk or treats to,
how can
giving
they
out
get in
food.
contact with them? Or how? It's just Kid, KIDD Warriors.
Warrior Foundation, and all they got to do is Google them. They're a nonprofit.
Kid Warrior Foundation.
And they have all sorts of events in the city. So
Okay, Kid, and that's Kid Warrior Foundation. Kid with 2 Ds. Facts. Anybody else?
no, that'll be it. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
man. Listen, man, we're gonna do this again for sure. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
We on, man. Shout out to your little queen too.
Yeah, that's my baby, Adriana, the Tyrant Princess LeBron.
All right, man. Future World Sport Broadcasting Network. We out.